In 1932, the unemployment rate in this country was 23.6%. Let me say that again. The unemployment rate in 1932 was 23.6%. We were at the depth of what came to be known as the Great Depression, the cruelest economic depression in American history. Starving children were going to bed hungry in this country in 1932. The suicide rate was skyrocketing. And today, the Trump stock market is on its way, according to the Wall Street Journal, to the, quote, worst April since 1932. Prior to the Donald Trump stock market, not a single economic indicator in this country has ever resembled anything in 1932 during the entire course of our lifetimes. But now Donald Trump has managed to bring the stock market back to 1932. The difference between 1932 and today is that in 1932, the only hope, and I mean the only hope, that people had in this country came from the newly elected President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was working every day then to lead the country out of that depression, which is exactly what he did. Every president in our lifetimes has always known every minute of the day how to instantaneously crash the stock market. They've all known how to do it, and not one of them has chosen to do that until Donald Trump. Every president always knew that all he had to do to crash the stock market was to take a public swipe at the chair of the Federal Reserve, who has always been, no matter who it is, more popular with Wall Street than any president of the United States. So for better or worse, Wall Street always respects the Federal Reserve chair much more than they respect the president of the United States. And now that respect gap is bigger than ever. And so Donald Trump decided that once again today, he would publicly attack Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, who was appointed to that job by Donald Trump in his first term, and then was reappointed by President Biden. That's right. President Biden reappointed Republican Jerome Powell, who was originally put into that position by Republican Donald Trump. And so the guy who says he always chooses the best people is now attacking one of his best people and crashing the stock market every single time that he does it. No president has ever been stupid enough to do that until Donald Trump. At 9:41 a.m., Donald Trump decided to go on social media and predict a recession, which no president has ever done. No president has ever predicted a recession during their term. So Donald Trump predicted a recession, and then he blamed it on the Federal Reserve chair, saying there can be a slowing of the economy, otherwise known as a recession, unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates, N-O-W, capital letters. Now, all those Trump voters who believed Donald Trump was going to make the American economy better all by himself, all of them thought that he was able to do that, and they never once on the campaign trail heard Donald Trump say he could only make the economy great if the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates. Never mentioned that on the campaign trail, but now Donald Trump says, the only I can fix it guy, I can't fix anything unless the chair of the Federal Reserve fixes it for me. That's what he's saying now. Speculation today then ran wild that Donald Trump would try to fire the chair of the Federal Reserve, which is against the law. CNBC's coverage of the market today once again turned dark.
This is what you get. I mean, Somebody needs to turn to the camera and tell the president to stop. I mean, he is messing with the foundation of this country. He's messing with the foundation of the economy. He's messing with America's place in the global financial system.
It is against the law for the president to fire the chair of the Federal Reserve, and Jerome Powell has said under no circumstances would he quit if threatened by Donald Trump with firing. But having seen Donald Trump defy the law in other arenas, the stock market is worried to the point that the Wall Street Journal titled its editorial tonight, "The Fire Jerome Powell Market Rout." The Journal editorial says, markets fear Mr. Trump really might fire Mr. Powell, not that it would do the president any good. He'd have to remove more than the chairman to change the Federal Open Market Committee, which sets interest rates and tries to satisfy the central bank's dual mandate of maximum employment and stable prices. This is a recipe for more market uncertainty. The tariffs will cause at least a one-time increase in the price of tariffed goods, which may become more entrenched if the Fed accommodates them by cutting rates. Markets are spooked because they don't know if Mr. Trump listens to anyone but his own impulses. Everything you're about to hear is something Donald Trump apparently does not know, and it is this. The chairman of the Federal Reserve does not set interest rates. Nope, he doesn't. Interest rates are established by a majority vote of a Federal Reserve Committee of 12 members. The Wall Street Journal notes Mr. Trump can't fire the regional Fed bank presidents on the committee, and all 12 voting members seem to agree with the Fed's recent policy moves. Even if you don't buy a new car during the Trump years, your automobile costs are going up right now tonight. NBC News is reporting, quote, an extended trade war could cause the average annual cost of car insurance to rise more than $300 by the end of the year, according to estimates from the insurance agency Insurify. I bought a Kia 4 years ago because it was the cheapest car in its category, and now it's in the shop waiting for a part to be shipped from South Korea. It's going to be a lot more expensive than it would have been during the Biden presidency. And while I'm driving a rental car during this very long wait, it turns out, for that highly tariffed part to arrive, this is what I'm hearing.
Starting next week, all vehicle prices go up because of the 25% auto tariff. That means if you're thinking about getting a new or pre-owned Nissan, now is the time. Why wait and pay 25% more? Come to Nissan and Van Nuys today and lock in those pre-tariff pricings before it's too late. Once prices go up, they're not coming back down.
You know, car advertising always delivers the simplest messages. And so these ads now presume that every adult in America understands who actually pays tariffs. There's a whole new car advertising genre now about pre-tariff pricing. Lock in those pre-tariff pricings before it's too late. Now is the time. Why wait and pay 25% more? That is not followed by a Trump campaign ad saying, don't worry, China will pay the tariff. You don't have to worry. Don't worry, South Korea will pay the tariff. Japan will pay the tariff. Germany will pay the tariff. Everyone knows now. Everyone knows Donald Trump has been lying every single time he has ever told his voters who pays those tariffs. He always said China pays the tariffs. He always said the foreign countries pays the tariffs. He was lying every time they said it. And now his voters know. Now they know. In April of 1932, when the stock market was falling exactly the way the stock market is falling this April, no one could afford to buy a car in America. No one except the very richest people in America could afford to buy a car in 1932. And so here we are at the Make America 1932 Again moment when Donald Trump is turning the stock market into its 1932 performance level right in the middle of the worst depression in our history. That's where we are now. That's where the stock market is, not the economy. Luckily, has not gone to that. But even Donald Trump now is predicting a recession. Donald Trump is making everything in our lives more expensive with his tariffs, as everyone in the country is looking forward to the benefits, for example, of retirement accounts. Every retirement account now has less money in it than it did when Joe Biden was president. Thanks entirely to Donald Trump, who inherited the strongest economy any president has ever inherited. And all he had to do to continue to claim that the surging Biden stock market was all thanks to him, all he had to do would have been to do absolutely nothing and just stay on a golf course all day, every day, and have nothing to do with government. Everyone in this country would be economically better off if Donald Trump had just done nothing. And so we might be on the verge tonight of the made-for-TV drama that will sink the stock market even below 1932 levels if Donald Trump tries to fire the Federal Reserve chairman against the law, or somehow have Jerome Powell locked out of the Federal Reserve building in Washington, D.C. And all eyes will once again turn to the United States Supreme Court, who would have the last word on a confrontation between the president and the chairman of the Federal Reserve. But no one looks to the United States Supreme Court the way we used to. No one looks to the court with confidence anymore, because Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas are both the most publicly, politically compromised Supreme Court justices in the history of the court, and because Donald Trump and his Justice Department lawyers have done nothing, despite a Supreme Court order, to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador after the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate his return because he was forcibly sent there in what the Trump Justice Department initially admitted in court was a mistake. Today, the White House press secretary contradicted the Trump Justice Department's own statements about the case in court when she said today, "We did not make a mistake." It will be interesting to see one of the Trump Justice Department lawyers try to say that in court, in direct contradiction to the previous Trump Justice Department lawyer who told the judge it was a mistake. Before that lawyer then, of course, got fired by the Trump Justice Department. Today, Florida Democratic Congressman Maxwell Frost was one of the members of the House of Representatives who traveled to El Salvador and was denied any opportunity to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia.
This could happen to any one of our constituents, any one of my constituents in Orlando, Florida, tomorrow or the next day. And so it's important that we draw the line here with Kilmar, that we ensure that he gets taken home, brought back home, where he can go through a process and go through due process.
Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen did succeed in his mission to El Salvador on Thursday when he met with Mr. Abrego Garcia.
Do you think that the country is currently in a constitutional crisis?
Oh, yes, we are. They are very much flouting the courts as we speak. As the courts have said, facilitating his return means something more than doing nothing. And they are doing nothing. Yes, they're absolutely in violation of the court orders as we speak.